In search of identity in the diaspora. Fundamental questions from the Harari youth. This is a two-segment response to deep-seated questions raised by the Harari youth in Canada, as well as to a video release titled I Am Ignorant, requesting Harari parents, Awach and Ayach, uncles, Izirach and Kakach, aunties, Annach and Echestach, and the community at large to teach the youth about their history and Harari heritage outside of Harar. Sometimes it takes a good fall to really know where you stand. It appears Harari youth around the globe have dynamically begun taking initiatives in response to Harar and the Harari cause, and in search of their identity. Recently, the Harari youth in Edmonton and Toronto, Canada came together by breaking all possible barriers, political, social, and religious, as well as disunifying forces and personalities that impaired the Harari community in the last few years. Their meetings manifested any barrier that could overcome for the common good under the banner Harar and Harari causes only. At IHMS, we salute their initiative and actions wholeheartedly. This youth group has raised two very crucial questions in search of their identity and building momentum to preserve the Harari value, the language, religion, culture, and traditional values. They echoed the DNA of Harari heritage must be kept in good shape and revived and practiced worldwide for the existence of Harar within the Ethiopian galaxy. During the interaction amongst themselves and their parents, they posed two fundamental questions which required answers from parents, intellects, community leaders, as well as Hararis from all walks of life. The two fascinating questions were, why are we a minority in our own homeland of Harar? And why do we need to preserve our identity and heritage when we live in various cultures and countries? IHMS participants, keynote speakers, and facilitators had attempted to answer the questions in a comprehensive manner encompassing social, political, and economic perspectives. These questions are fantastic. They imply how the Harari youth are determined in search of their identity and their place in Harar's history. Before we spell out the answers, IHMS would like to alert its viewers and audiences to have their complementary and supplementary inputs, as well as the parents to take this opportunity to answer these questions for their own children. It is high time to implement and consolidate Harari values in the young. Weekly IHMS Youth Program is dedicated to the Harari youth globally and has given them a forum to learn and flourish their heritage as well as communicate amongst themselves for the good of Harar. Going back to these two questions, they are excellent, wide, and deep that require multiple answers through navigating national experiences, history, social, economic, and political circumstances. Why are we a minority in our own homeland of Harar? We are a minority in our own homeland of Harar for several interlinked but distinctive reasons. By the same analogy, and to have a wider frame of understanding, let us pose similar questions to you, the Harari youth in North America. Why do you think the First Nations or natives or the indigenous people in Canada and the United States have become minorities in their own continent? Being exposed to the history of First Nations in Canada, you may ponder by now how the various invading forces led to the verge of extinction of these natives in their own homeland of North America. Societal extinction or ethnic cleansing are really disturbing the human ecosystem, as we are even witnessing around the world today. Obliterating a country, committing genocide, ethnic conflicts, and displacement of a huge segment of the population have become the order of the day with undeniable facts in the so-called civilized 21st century. Pursuing their own sick economic interest or political denomination at the expense of obliterating the weak, the minority, or the poor has become a friendly fire in the name of democracy worldwide. Coming back to your questions, let's navigate through the many reasons that Hararis have also become a minority in their own homeland. First, The political turmoil, including invasions and the annexation of the Harar state in 1887 by Highlanders, led to various displacement, forceful immigration, or resettlement of Hararis in various cities and towns outside of Harar in Ethiopia. The religious persecution by emperors Menelik and Haile Selassie. Harar was Islamic knowledge city in East Africa and the Mecca of the region for a very long time. After the occupation of Harar, both leaders were involved intensely in dismantling Harar's Islamic education system and replacing it with a secular one. Confiscation of mosques and the Islamic schools, as well as converting them into churches, became the reasons of disappearance for many Harari religious leaders and educators, and therefore declining in their followers in Harar. Changing of political systems, feudalism to communism, and then to authoritarianism within Ethiopia in the last 40 years has led to the mass exodus of Ethiopians, including Hararis, to Europe, North America, the Middle East, and Australia. That is why most Hararis are scattered around the world, including your parents today. These major political calamities impacted Harar in losing its political power and influences in East Africa. The Harari dynasty, the chain of 76 amirs, or kings, since 969 AD, broke in 1887. Thus, the political landscape in Harar changed forever. In fact, it reduced Harar from being a country that used to stretch from the city of Harar to the port of Zelia, now a port of Somalia. Today, Harari Regional State is about 300 kilometers and the smallest regional state within Ethiopia. Imagine and relate the impact of these political disasters on depopulating Hararis in Harar today. The second reason we are a minority in our own homeland is social havoc, not exhaustive but including. After the occupation of Harar, the resettlement of non-Hararis from other parts of Ethiopia, especially retired military personnel and households, were dutifully immigrated and systematically contributed to the masking of Hararis in Harar. Several archived documents and historical facts evidently expose that the feudalistic regimes had forcefully grabbed several Harari farmlands and properties that gave way to the new occupying authorities and their relations an edge. The immigrants and those resettled households multiplied over time, almost 140 years. And hence clearly demographic changes, which currently stand at 52% Oromo, 24% Ahmara, 9% Hararis, and 1% of others. Various Harari societal institutions such as the Afocha, Mugad, Moyagar, and others were systematically dismantled over time. The functions of these community institutions were diminished and their activities were limited. In turn, it brought about the deterioration of Harari core values and contributing to the decline of Hararis in their own homeland and elsewhere. Besides the political turmoil cited previously, these social crises are also immensely contributing to the forceful marginalization and assimilation, thereby depopulating the Hararis in Harar. The third and final reason is economic disruptions. As reported by various medias, Harar has recently experienced also confiscation of Harari farmland and properties that led to the displacement of many Hararis, thus blocking their income and livelihood. This is not a new phenomenon in Harar. It happened several times since the occupation in 1887. Therefore, it is obvious that the loss of one's property and land disrupts all means of existence and hence hopelessly leaving the homeland for survival elsewhere. Since the occupation of Harar, the imperial regimes systematically avoided developing Harar, and instead they embarked on developing the nearby towns of Dire Dawa as a business hub. The development strategies intentionally included major road infrastructure and railways from Addis Ababa to Dire Dawa and to Djibouti, avoiding Harar. These major road infrastructure developments shifted almost all the economic activities from Harar, once known as the Emporium of East Africa, to Dire Dawa. Thus, several Harari households moved to Dire Dawa, Addis Ababa, and other cities and towns within Ethiopia for their livelihoods. This also contributed largely to the depopulation of Hararis in Harar. In a nutshell, Harar has been in trials and tribulations for many years. These political, social, and economic facts speak for themselves that Harar's influence and contributions are diminished and destroyed to some extent. The forceful marginalization, assimilation, resettlement, immigration, as well as the inhumane governing systems that were imposed on Harar for the last 140 years are the main causes that made us a minority in our own homeland today. It is also unfortunate that the so-called majority of population in Ethiopia has posed significant threats and continued abusing the peaceful minorities in all aspects of life in Ethiopia. Let's pause and ponder. There are a lot of lessons to learn and soar like an eagle. The eagle is always focused objectively and resolute when it comes to overcoming any obstacle. Let us all Hararis from around the globe unite, look forward, and focus to continue to demonstrate the essence of Harar, as it is nationally witnessed and internationally recognized as UNESCO's laureate city of tolerance, solidarity, unity, and peace. Concurrently, Harar hopes that most of its non-Harari residents will understand and abide by their moral responsibilities to have harmony and continuity of coexistence. Harar rightfully believes humanity, security, and peace are the preconditions and functioning of any humanely formulated governing systems, be it democratic or otherwise. Attempting to implement a would-be democratic system in Ethiopia that falls short of humanity, justice, security, and peace at its preconditioned is always chaotic and full of anarchism. Let not their unfounded anger become our anger, since there is knowledge without humanity and politics without principles in Ethiopia today. We just want peace for all. IHMS.